we gave you a little bit of homework last week, and that was to have a look at page 53, which was entitled Genesis and the Lectionary. And the homework was to put some double ticks or a ticker across against the stories that you thought you knew very well, that you knew, or that you didn't know at all. So this is just a little warm-up exercise for everyone. And ask you a couple of questions to share with the group. So what stories, I'm going to ask, did you know really, really well?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, yep.
Yeah, me too.
The fall.
The fall?
Yeah, the fall.
Yeah.
The flood.
The flood, yes.
Yeah.
Tower of Babel.
Tower of Babel.
Yep.
Yes.
Almost all the ones that had at least 2 readings from in the year.
Lectionary.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the stories that you kind of knew about, but not really well, that you knew sort of what it was, but not the details of it?
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah, yep.
The deaths of Jacob and Joseph.
Yes.
All the genealogies.
Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
Cain and Abel.
Table of Nations. I
Okay.
had I have to look that one up.
Dinah.
Yes, Dinah.
So who actually knew Dinah? Were many of you actually know the story of Dinah and what happened?
No.
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 Yes.
That's what I
Yes.
thought.
Yes.
I knew it, but I had needed to be reminded. And the same with Judah and Tamar. I needed to go and look them up. I did know them, but needed to be reminded.
Yep. Who knew Judah and Tamar?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, I knew that one
Sort
too.
of.
Okay, sort of. Were there any stories there that you really didn't know at all?
Somebody or a couple of people mentioned the genealogy sections. I found this really interesting quote last week, which says the law of Moses tells this story and then their family tree, and then follows with the table of nations, 2 shockingly countercultural and anti-racist documents that assert that all humans on earth are part of one family. And so this was reading the genealogies as saying we can't buy into the racist denigration of some parts of society over others. That's the reason for including those genealogies. It's an interesting take.
Yes.
Sure is.
So don't dismiss the genealogies.
No, that's a really good point,
reason.
though, John, because we often do just because they're so long and sort of repetitive.
Yeah.
But it's what they're saying overall, which I'd never thought about it like that. But yeah, there's so much truth in that.
And often we
Yes.
think we know a story and we really don't know the details of it at all.
Mm.
And if I push people on that, like, and ask, tell me the time that Isaac decided to look for a wife, when was that?
Haven't a clue.
That's exactly right. That's
But he was
what I
30.
mean. So when I say to you, you know the stories, you'll probably say, yes, I know that. But if I say, tell me why Isaac sort of wife at that time, because there was a highly specific time he did, no one can tell me.
Yeah.
I think he was 30, wasn't he?
He was older, but why did he do it?
After his mother died.
Exactly. It was after his mother died. And he didn't seek a wife till Sarah died. So there's some details in there that, you know, if you really know the story, you're going to know that. And when he brings her back, he refers to it as the tent of Sarah. It's still being called his mother's name, even though she would be, Rebecca would be in charge of the household. So there's things we don't actually know because we don't read them. And part of the problem with the lectionary, of course, is it shapes what you do know. And it also is at the mercy of your minister or your lay preacher. Pick and choose. And some of these things, I'm imagining that things like Judah and Tamar rarely make it into the pulpit.
Yep.
And that most ministers on that week would be picking.
The gospel.
Not, it hardly gets into the lectionary, does it? It's not there. And why would it not be there? Because it's a story about sexuality and intrigue and the Levirate law. So it doesn't actually make it into the lectionary. So did you notice that the things you tended to know were either things that were in the lectionary or they were things that you learn in Sunday school?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you get the sanitized version in Sunday school. I mean, we all know of Sodom and Gomorrah, but we often don't know the details of it. We just know it was destroyed.
Yep.
And Sarah became, Lot's wife became a pillar of salt in it. Most of us could pull that sort of time out of our detail out of our cortexes. So
Yes.
the lectionary shapes what we know, and the lectionary shapes often curricula, and colourful stories will shape Sunday school curricula about what we know. But you can see there's these huge gaps. Don't come
Elizabeth,
into the lectionary.
that begs the question, who shapes the lectionary and what is lying behind the way it's shaped?
Well, it was shaped by an ecumenical committee of different people across churches. And the idea is that across the 3 years, something of the great narratives of the Old Testament, along with the prophets, would be told. And parts of the Old Testament are matched against parts of the synoptic gospel. So every lectionary year has a synoptic gospel. So you've got Matthew is year A, Mark is year B, Luke is year C. And then you always have a psalm. You always have something from the epistles or the book of Acts. And then you have an Old Testament reading. And in some years, they're matched with prophets. In some years, we hear the narratives of the Old Testament like we are at the moment. In some years, you might get wisdom literature come into it. So it's an attempt to kind of give you a good cross-section right across the Bible. And when you're in special seasons like Lent, the lectionary meetings are matched. When we're in what's called ordinary time, they are not matched, even though people will try and make them go together. They're not put together. But in special times, they are. They're meant to help reinforce the one story. Any questions about that? Are people surprised how much you do or don't know?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't.
You'll know all these stories in all their details by the time we finish this session today.
Well, we won't. That's a tall order. But we'll know a bit more about some of
Are
them.
we going to be here till 6 p.m.? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
It's a big topic. It's a big topic.
So